At 50, a woman should no longer be asking for permission to exist, apologizing for breathing, or explaining her ambitions. By this age, what a woman truly needs is not another yoga class, another green smoothie, or yet another workshop on how to be more empathetic. What she requires is a bank account with multiple zeros, a calendar cleared of the foolish, and a mirror that reflects back that brazen, shameless gaze. At 50, you don't need to be nice, you need to be wealthy. And no, I'm not just referring to money. Though don't get me wrong, money matters and it matters a lot. I'm talking about a wealth sharper than any designer blade. The wealth to decide to say no, to refuse to smile when you don't feel like it, to refuse to tolerate mediocrity out of fear of being alone, because you've learned that your peace is the greatest companion you will ever have. Do you see what they've done to us? We were raised to please, to accommodate, to tone down. We were taught to apologize every time we spoke up, even when we were the only ones with something vital to say. We were trained to conceal our anger, to hide our ambition, to whisper our desires as if they were sins. And now you arrive at 50 and stand before the mirror with the brutal certainty that you no longer have to hide anything, that every minute you spend being nice simply to avoid discomforting someone else is a minute stolen from your empire. Your time is no longer cheap currency, it's a diamond. And you spend it only where it shines back at you. Do you know why so many women don't become wealthy after 50? Because they still believe they must earn the right to want more. Because they still apologize for refusing to babysit grandchildren, for not sharing their pension, for preferring a real leather bag to a family Sunday at home. Because they still believe it's selfish to put themselves first, when in reality, it's the most generous thing they can do for themselves. I didn't come here to tell you it's all easy. I came to remind you that it's all possible, if you are willing to make it harder. To stop pretending, to stop smiling out of obligation, to stop wearing modesty like a virtue when it's really a pink-laced cage. There is an age, and believe me, it comes precisely when the world starts treating you like you're invisible. When you discover your superpower isn't your skin, your waistline, or your capacity for sacrifice. It's your ability to say to hell with it, without blinking. You don't want flowers, you want action. You don't want nice words, you want results. You don't want another positivity lesson, you want money depositing in your account while you sleep. And not because you're heartless or superficial, but because you're exhausted from pouring out your soul and getting crumbs back. So here we are, you with your hard-earned scars, me with these sharpened truths, and a decision you can no longer postpone. Will you continue being the woman who waits her turn, or will you become the one who carves out her own? In this space, we don't pretend to be the nice ones. We don't aspire to be the kindest, the most agreeable. We aspire to be rich in every sense. And we do it unapologetically. Let me tell you something uncomfortable. Kindness has cost you dearly. It has cost time, money, self-esteem, opportunity, and worst of all, freedom. How many times have you said yes when you wanted to scream no? How many times have you endured endless meetings, strained relationships, hypocritical family dinners, strategic quietness, and forced smiles just to avoid being the difficult one? Female niceness, the sweet, polite, always available niceness, has been a domestication strategy. They made you believe it was your shield, when in fact, it was your leash. But now you know, and now there's no going back. Kind women cheer others on while masking their own triumphs. They feed everyone else and dine on leftovers. They forgive everything except their ambition. They confuse humility with self-sabotage. They work twice as hard and earn half. They wait for recognition as if life is naturally fair. But it's not. Life doesn't reward the nice. It rewards the audacious. And if you're nice too, let it be the cherry on top, not the whole cake. At 50, you're not here for consolation prizes. You're not here to appease the brother-in-law who belittles you at family dinners. You're not here to tolerate mediocre friendships spiced with mocking laughter. You're not here to shrink your light, to speak softly, to cede your place. You are here to occupy it, all of it, with elegance, strength, even irony if you choose it, but with unambiguous clarity. No longer is the question whether you can. The question now is whether you are willing to pay the price of shedding the expectations others have of you to become the woman you decide to be. And that woman, believe me, does not beg. She chooses. She doesn't plead, she demands. She doesn't justify, she moves forward. And most dangerously, she doesn't need anyone's approval. When she walks into a room, she doesn't need to speak to be heard. Her presence speaks volumes. The millionaire woman over 50 doesn't need to prove anything. She's too tired of having to prove everything for half a lifetime. She's no longer trying to belong. She's trying to be seen. She's no longer seeking acceptance. She's seeking respect. And what does respect require? Money. Not as symbol, but as a tool, a lever for autonomy, a shield against emotional, economic, and social dependency. Because when you have money, you wake differently, you decide differently, you attract differently, and most importantly, you become inaccessible to anything that doesn't meet your standards. Do you want to be liked? Keep on being available, flexible, smiling, for everyone but yourself. But if you want to thrive, start to unsettle. Unsettle with your ideas, your rates, your expectations, your silence, your success. Do you know what unsettles even more than an empowered woman? An empowered woman who doesn't apologize, who doesn't explain, who doesn't tone down her voice. A woman who doesn't need to be loved to feel valuable, who looks at herself in the mirror and says, I don't have to be liked, I have to like myself. That is the woman the system fears. The one who doesn't depend on likes, male validation, or a WhatsApp group of friends complaining. That woman could be you. Doesn't matter if right now you have $5, a low pension, or you're surrounded by people who don't believe in you. Because what you actually need to start your revolution is to stop being polite with your dreams. They don't need sweet manners. They need ruthless action, focus, boldness, and above all, decision. And speaking of decision, if you're still reading this, it means a part of you already knows. You weren't born to fade away. You were born to break the mold. Even at 50. Especially at 50. So listen up, I won't repeat this. If this message has shaken something inside you, don't silence it. Express it. Join this sisterhood of women who no longer ask for permission. Share a word in the comments that reflects you. And if you sense that this space is an oasis in a world that insists you settle, subscribe. Not to inflate numbers, but to sharpen your mindset. We aren't many yet, but we're dangerous. People say money doesn't bring happiness. Sure. That's what they say when they can't bear to see you free, because the kind of freedom that disturbs isn't youth's. It's that of a mature woman who no longer fears loss. That woman, once she reaches a certain age, stops begging for emotional handouts and starts building her throne, whether others applaud or not. And truth, that throne isn't cheap. It demands more than an eternal youth or a wrinkle-free face. It demands dignity. It demands clarity. It demands strength. Because a woman over 50 doesn't become a millionaire with filters or Instagram affirmations. She does it by understanding that the game is different, that the world was never kind to ambitious women, and doesn't need to be kind now because you're no longer asking for kindness. You're demanding respect. Do you want respect? Respect your time, your talent, your boundaries, your fees, your rest, your pleasures, your anger, because they all form you. They all have value. The problem is that for decades you were trained to give them away, to minimize them, to dilute them. You were told, be good. And you confused being good with disappearing. Welcome to the other side, where you no longer fear charging what you're worth, saying what you think, dressing how you want. Because here on this bold side we understand that a woman who doesn't put price tags on herself ends up in sales racks. And you weren't born for that. They told you talking about money was vulgar. And you know what is truly vulgar? Spending your whole life quietly hoping for more. Fueling everyone but your own life. That's not generosity. That's emotional slavery masquerading as love. So no more, dear. At this stage, money is not superficial. It's strategic. It's not greed, it's protection. It's not frivolity, it's autonomy. When a woman over 50 says, I want to be a millionaire, what she's really saying is, I'm tired of being last on my list. She's saying, I don't want to depend on anyone to pay for my choices. She's saying, if I have to be the villain in someone else's story to become the heroine in mine, so be it. Yes, it will cost you people, but hear this. Every woman who raises her standards must be ready to lose those who benefited from her smaller version. When you grow, you upset the status quo. When you charge what you're worth, people resent. When you say no, they think you're cold. When you set boundaries, they think you're unbearable. But when you adapt, tolerate, swallow, and smile, then yes, you are the wonderful woman they always wanted you to be. Well, enough of that. The wonderful woman now becomes a powerful woman. And a powerful woman doesn't ask, she negotiates. Doesn't dream of a quiet retirement, dreams of a silent empire. She doesn't want a husband who gives her everything. She wants investments that give her everything without ever tolerating anything. Does that sound drastic? You bet it is. Is it exaggerated? Maybe, but only if you haven't yet begun to unlearn a lifetime of conditioning. But once you taste the power of living without permission, there's no going back. You cannot shrink now. You cannot be content with being nice anymore. And here is where the real alchemy happens. When you stop investing in draining relationships, tasks that don't nourish you, routines that wilt you, and instead invest in yourself as if you were your most profitable venture. Because that's exactly what you are. Invest in mindset, not trends. In knowledge, not cosmetics. In free time, not strive to please. In mentors who light you up, not friends who put you to sleep. In platforms that generate income, not excuses for waiting. Wealth isn't a goal, it's an identity. It's not about how much you earn. It's about how you think, how you choose, how you speak to yourself when no one's listening. Because the woman who believes she's rich, whether she is or isn't yet, walks differently, charges differently, loves differently, and above all, stops begging. Let me say this clearly. You don't need to be nice to do well. You need to be ruthlessly loyal to yourself, even if it stings, even if they criticize you, even if they label you arrogant or demanding, because those labels simply mean free. And here we celebrate exactly that. Guilt-free ambition, unapologetic desire, wild permission to be who you are. Most women reach 50 feeling one thing: I've given everything. Now what? You spent half your life being everything. Dutiful wife, exemplary mother, loyal employee, available friend, obedient daughter. You erased yourself so others could shine. And now, it's hard to find yourself in the mirror. Here's a brutal truth. No one's going to give you back that time you lost being the nice you. But, and here's the pivot, it's not too late, it's exactly on time. Because at 50, you're no longer afraid to start over. You're terrified of staying the same. If there's one thing you know for sure by now, it's that no one will come rescue you. Neither the prince, nor your children, nor the government, nor your boss, much less your old friends who resent your ambition. When life turns its back, you learn to walk forward alone. And that, my dear, is the fastest route to unstoppable wealth, selective solitude. Because before, you thought being alone was failure. Now you know being surrounded by mediocrity is ruin. You'd rather spend a quiet Saturday evening reading than fake laughs at a meaningless gathering. You'd rather be your own company than lose yourself again. That decision, to walk alone unapologetically, is where your empire begins. Nobody talks about this because it makes people uncomfortable. A woman over 50 who decides to be wealthy is disruptive, because she's not seeking validation, she's seeking dividends. She's not dreaming of a ring, she's dreaming of passive income. She's not longing for cuddles, she's longing for capital. She's not settling for being liked, she's settling for living well. And that, in a world that expects older women to fade away, is revolutionary. Want to shock your surroundings? Say out loud, I want to make a lot of money. Watch their reactions. You'll hear, money's not everything. Enjoy it. Their discomfort is the discomfort of someone waking up to their own limitations. That's how you know you're on the right path. While they soothe themselves with mediocrity, you're lighting your fire, and you're living proof that a woman can choose to burn brightly no matter her age.